You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marchegiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show.
Hey, Evan, it's Dr. J. What's going on, man?
Hey, well, I'm excited. I got the memo to wear polo shirts today, so looks like we're off to a good start.
I like it. You're styling, man. Well, I'm back from vacation feeling a little more refreshed than I normally am, so feeling pretty extra energized today. How you doing?
Oh, I'm feeling good. Feeling real good. I mean, it's cloudy, and we're headed into the dark, gloomy winter here, but I'm still pretty upbeat about it. So,
does it get cold down in Louisville there?
Oh, it gets freezing.
Does it really? You get a lot of snow?
We got about a foot when Hannah and I first moved back in March.
Oh, wow.
The day after we moved back, we got a foot of snow. So some years, yes, some years, no.
Got it. That makes sense. Well, we talked about in the pre-show that we wanted to do a podcast on transitioning to paleo. So this may be elementary for some people, for anyone that's trying to get their spouse or family member to switch over or try to make a transition to a healthier diet. This is going to be, in my opinion, the podcast for you. And we'll kind of lay the foundation from diet into functional medicine, because there are people that diet changes a lot of times will fix a lot of their issues depending on how long they've been sick, tending to be the less long you've been sick, the shorter time period you've been sick, diet changes can be enough sometimes. But if it's been longer, more prolonged, or if it's more serious, you're going to have to go or transition into the functional medicine world. And the diet is the foundational piece to go into that functional medicine world. The sicker you are, it's like building a skyscraper, right? The taller that skyscraper is, meaning the sicker you are, well, the deeper you have to build that foundation. And a lot of functional medicine doctors and practitioners, they really skimp on the foundational info. And we're going to make sure we lay that down. And we're laying it down kind of in a paleo template format. And that's kind of a very loaded term, because a lot of people, I just look at my YouTube comments. And I try not to look at them too much because they're all over the map. But I get a lot of feedback on paleo is just a meat diet. And that is totally, couldn't be farther from the truth. And for some people, it may be more meat than others. Some it's less meat. But again, like my plate, for instance, that my food goes on, it's 50% or more vegetables. So to say that it's an all-meat diet, I see more vegetables on my plate than most vegans and vegetarians. So go figure. It's not just a meat diet. It's a diet that is kind of geared to how we evolved, the foods that we have eaten, foods that are nutrient dense, foods that are low in toxins, foods that are anti-inflammatory, cutting out a lot of the refined vegetable oils and extra omega-6 fats, foods that are sustaining for life, and then they're going to help give us the nutrients we need. And we can dial in the macronutrients, the protein, fat, and carbs, just like we dial up the temperature up or down in our house depending on what's happening outside.
Yeah, and I find for some reason you can give somebody a nutrition plan to go with. They may stick with their supplements. There may be some symptoms that pop up. For example, this happened last week with a client where her skin was reacting. She was having all of these crazy rashes. And so I said, well, let's dig into the diet. Are you still consuming pasteurized dairy and grains? Well, yeah. And then we found it immediately. So sometimes I feel like people get loose with the diet, like they dial in paleo really strict, and they're like, I'm going to kind of like open the boundaries a little bit, but then symptoms pop back up, and you can't out-supplement nutrition some of the time.
Exactly. You can't. So if we start kind of foundational here, the foundational template for me in a paleo diet or a paleo template, I like template better because we give ourselves wiggle room, is cutting out the grains. So I like the old analogy going from grains to greens. So any amount of grains that were in or are in your diet, we want to shift them over to greens. Green vegetables, broccoli, spinach, asparagus, all of these good things. And of course, like we can make an exception for cauliflower and other vegetables that may not necessarily be green, right? These are our non-starchy vegetables. We're not going to get in trouble with these causing blood sugar swings, so they don't convert to carbohydrate. Sugar that fast. There's a very low amount of carbohydrate in it, so they don't convert to sugar that fast, so it's not going to cause a roller coaster ride. They're nutrient dense, they're anti-inflammatory, and there's a lot of fiber, which can make us feel very satiated. So the first tip I would say is going from grains to greens. Do you want to comment on that, Evan?
Yeah, no, that's a good step, and definitely organic greens are very easy to find, so there's almost no excuse now to be able to have access to good quality greens. Generally speaking, the darker and more colorful, the better. Iceberg lettuce obviously is not a green. Doesn't really count. So definitely focused on your good spinaches, your kales, all of the chards and other cool looking things that you can find at your farmer's market or even at the grocery now. They have a lot of variety now at the grocery compared to 5-10 years ago.
Exactly. When you add these greens in or add these extra non-starchy vegetables in, a good thing to kind of keep in mind, if you're already having digestive issues, you may want to cook some of these things down. You may want to steam it or saute it just because of the fact that a lot of these foods have extra fiber that may make it hard for you to access the nutrients or may make it harder on your GI tract to break things down. So if you're adding in these vegetables and you're getting gassy or bloaty or more constipated, a good next step would be to steam or saute some of these things, either which is with a steamer or cook in a little bit of grass-fed butter, ghee, or coconut oil, because cooking is pre-digestion, right? A lot of people in the vegan, vegetarian area will say, well, cooking destroys all the enzymes and depletes all the nutrients. Well, it really depends, right? Because it's not that black and white. Cooking actually can make nutrients more bioavailable. If you look at the nutrients in raw broccoli to steamed broccoli, there's actually more nutrients in steamed broccoli because you're breaking down the fiber, giving your body more access to the nutrients that are actually present in it. So a little bit of steaming, a little bit of sauteing these things, as long as you're not really cooking them to death or boiling the crap out of them, right? If we're doing something reasonable and we're not going overboard, we're actually going to create more nutrition and more bioavailability.
Yeah, not that it matters, but I would say for me personally, I'm about 80% cooked or steamed and 20% raw. I just find I feel so much better. Like last night, we had this huge head of broccoli that we cut up and put in a pan with some butter and some pink salt. Oh, yeah. God, it was so good.
And there are certain vegetables that are more intuitively eaten raw, like spinach, right? That's going to be more raw. A carrot, maybe more raw. Cucumbers, more raw. These are kind of natural, intuitive vegetables that will be eaten raw. But then things like cauliflower or broccoli or cabbage, things like that will do better cooked or steamed or even fermented, in the form of sauerkraut or cabbage. Mm-hmm. That's kind of our first step there. Anything else on that you want to mention?
I think that's pretty good coverage.
All right, so we have step one, and then I think step two I would add would be the cooking element, because that can make a big difference. People go from eating a lot more vegetables, now they're more fiber there, and then they start feeling more gassy or bloating. That's the first step to take when you're feeling more gassy and bloated.
I actually do have one last thing to say on that, just because I was doing some reading yesterday, and a study found that up to 7 servings of vegetables per day was the optimal amount for happiness. So if you need a reason to eat more veggies, then maybe that's it. Now, they went up past 7 and they didn't find any more happiness. But every serving up to 7 servings per day of veggies improve happiness. So there you go.
That's great. Very good. Awesome. Next.
Soda to water.
Soda to water.
It's amazing how many people still drink soda. Like, we're in 2015, and I'm not judging, but when I look at some food journals and you as well, it's like, whoa, really? Still
Yeah.
5, 6 Diet Pepsis or Diet Cokes a day? I thought we were done with those, but it's a big deal. It's a big addiction.
And it may not even be soda. It may be vitamin water, right? Oh my gosh, I'm drinking vitamins and getting some crystalline fructose at 45 grams per bottle. Actually, more sugar in these vitamin waters than actually in a Coke. So terrible. Or even some of the kombuchas, right? There's a couple brands down here in Austin, Texas. I won't name them, but they have almost as much sugar as a soda. So if you're going to do kombucha, my favorite brand is GT Dave's. I like the Trilogy or the ginger. There's a lot of them. Citrus and cranberry are great too. But they're at about 2 grams of sugar per serving. Much, much better than some of the ones that are at 12, 15, 24. Remember, that's, per 8 ounces. So you got to multiply it by 1.5 to get the true ratio. So if it's 20 grams of sugar per serving, which a lot of them have, that's really 30 grams of sugar per bottle. You're sitting right at the level of a Coke almost. Really close.
Yeah, there are a lot of pseudo health drinks that are promoted as healthy. One that I drank for a while, admittedly, several years ago was one called Neuro, and it was primarily crystalline fructose, but
Yep.
then they added in some L-theanine and some other things. I wanted to just feel the effects because it was like a liquid calming drink. That crystalline fructose is worse than regular fructose for you in terms of glycation. So I stay away from it now, but it's more common than you think to have compounds like that.
Absolutely. And also, even people that go to Whole Foods and think, well, I'm going to go to the juice bar and get a green juice made. And then what happens is half of the vegetables are carrots, which have a ton of sugar if you juice them. And then if they start adding in fruit in there, my gosh, you can add a ton of sugar by just juicing too much fruit. So if you're going to do a green drink, you want to make sure 90+% of it's green vegetables, and ideally not much of a carrot unless you're doing, maybe a quarter of 1 carrot. And then maybe you want a little bit of a berry, or you want to sweeten it with a half a green apple, or maybe a little bit of pineapple at the very end. But 90% or so at least should be your green veggies, not including the carrot, because you want to make sure you're not creating too much sugar. When you pull that fiber out, that sugar goes into your body very fast. And even though there's a whole bunch of nutrients along with it, your body will still see 20 or 30 grams of sugar, the same as that Coke regarding the sugar. Yes, there's vitamins and minerals, but the sugar's still there.
Yeah, I'm a bigger fan of just blending all of the greens with some berries as opposed to juicing. I much prefer that for people, and you're getting the whole plant. You're not just taking out the sugar from the sugar bag and leaving everything else behind.
Yeah, I like using a Vitamix and doing that as well. Again, there's benefits for each. You get a lot more fiber, but some people, the fibers, creating extra fermentation and bloating and gut issues, which would cause me to want to look deeper. But yeah, so you got to pick your poison, and if you're going to do it, you got to make sure you're doing it the right way so you're not driving up too much sugar.
Yeah, and if you buy bottled green drinks, I guess since we're on the topic of this, watching out for pseudo health drinks, a lot of the green drinks out there I've seen 40, 50, even close to 60 grams of sugar for some of these cold pre-bottled green drinks. So the one I do is the Suja, the Midday Thrive. That's the lowest sugar I could find. It's all organic, and it's about 19 grams per bottle, which is still pretty hefty, but it's just one of those go-to pick-me-ups.
Yeah, and if you're trying to figure out, the green drink, obviously look at the sugar label. In Austin, we have a couple of really good ones that are at 6 or 7 grams for the whole bottle. But look at the sugar label. You see over, 15 or so, it's definitely too high. Even if it's at the amount that you mentioned, probably better post-workout, right? Probably better post-workout. And then look at the ingredients. The ingredients are written ascending to descending regarding how much of that product or that compound's in the drink. So if it's pineapple or a fruit first, the majority of that's going to be that fruit. So if you're looking at a fruit one and there's maybe a little bit of green apple or pineapple in it, make sure it's that last ingredient or so, because that way that was used the least and the other veggies were used the most.
Yeah, it's the opposite most of the time. It's like water, apple juice,
Yes.
and then a little greens.
Yes, exactly. And you want whole food. You don't want concentrate crap. So just if you can read the ingredients, you're going to be able to you'll be able to make better choices, smarter choices.
Yep.
All right, next step here is upgrade your meat quality. Meat can be toxic. It can be if you're eating a whole bunch of conventional junky meats Animals that have been fed corn and grains, an unnatural diet, step one. Two, those are heavily genetically modified. So what that means is they have been spliced with other genes. They tend to produce pesticides like Bt toxin. So then when you consume them, they're still in your gut producing toxins of some sort. And they're also heavily sprayed with a pesticide known as Roundup or glyphosate. And what that means is that the heavy amount of spraying, glyphosate works by killing weeds around it via chelating out minerals. So if it's chelating out minerals, that means there's less nutrients in the foods themselves. Therefore, if the animals get less nutrients, you get less nutrients. So GMOs are bad because of a couple of reasons: toxins, pesticides, mold. Also bad because they're heavily sprayed with Roundup, which pulls out more nutrients. Therefore, there's less nutrients to you. And it's an unnatural diet. So if you can just go from conventional to pasture-fed, there's automatically an improvement there. If you can go up from pasture-fed to organic, there's an improvement there because the foods are going to have less pesticides and not be sprayed by Roundup and no GMO. And then if you can go to pasture-fed and local, where they're getting fed grass and a natural diet, then you're way ahead of yourself. So if you can just make sure the meat quality is better, and wherever you are in that ladder, if it's conventional, we'll go to free range. If you're at free range, go to organic. If you're at organic, go to organic pasture-fed, and then even local. So that's kind of the ladder in which you can just reach one rung up where you're currently at.
Yeah, and I would squeeze wild meat in there, in that ladder somewhere too. I've been buying elk at the store. I'm not out hunting elk, but it's still wild meat that tastes amazing, and you can know that it's good quality. So I love game meats.
Yeah, that's great. Anything else you want to say about the meat?
I think that's good. I think we could spend a lot more time blah-blahing about it, but that's pretty good.
Good. Next, I would say skipping meals. Right? A lot of people are notorious for skipping breakfast. I'm not hungry in the morning. Well, there's a great deal of evidence in the research, but even just clinically, that if you have good amount of protein and fat at breakfast, you really supercharge your metabolism, but you also balance out your cravings during the day. Now, this is important because if you're making a dietary shift, right, we're on this paleo template, well, if we can create a satiated appetite during the day, we're less likely to crave other crap and sugar and drinks and candies that may derail us. So if we can set our metabolism early in the day, put the right amount of protein and fat in our body, then we're more likely to make better choices throughout the day because we've stabilized our blood sugar, stabilized our brain chemistry, and we're going to be more in charge of our ship, so to speak.
Yeah, a lot of people eat, which I talked with a lady this morning. She said, man, I just love eating cereal in the morning, and she eats nothing else with it. So that insulin has to get secreted, and now you have high insulin, and now you can't burn fat all day. So her main goal is weight loss. Obviously, I like to say weight loss is a side effect of getting healthy, but if you're just doing a carb-rich breakfast like that, that blood sugar goes sky high. Now you're probably going to come down an hour or two later and have even more cravings for more cereal or candy bars or pretzels or something silly like that. You're going to feel like crap. You're not going to be able to focus, and you're going to gain weight that way. So definitely do some coconut oil in a shake or do the bacon and eggs. Did I have breakfast this morning? I can't remember. What'd you have?
I'm actually sipping on a shake right now. I had some high-quality coffee with some MCT and butter this morning to start my day, and then I'm sipping on a protein shake with collagen and beef protein. That's the next step right here, right? Because 90% of my patients, because when you've had thousands of interactions with patients, you kind of know, what they're going to say ahead of time. It's like a good attorney is always told in court, never ask a question you don't already know the answer to. And it's kind of like that with patients. So I say, don't ever skip breakfast. Don't skip these meals. And the response is, let's see if you can guess it.
They'll say okay sometimes.
Yeah, the main response I get is, I'm not hungry in the morning. I wake up, I have no appetite. I'm not hungry. So I say, okay, the reason why you're not hungry in the morning is because you're waking up in a strong sympathetic state. Your nervous system is so shifted towards the fight or flight sympathetic branch of the nervous system, and that turns off the appetite. Because if you're in fight or flight, you don't want to be running from a tiger thinking about how much food you want to eat because you're starving, right? you are focused on getting away so you can survive. And then once you shift from the sympathetics to the parasympathetics, that's the rest and digest, that allows blood flow to go away from the arms and legs. Why is it in the arms and legs? Because you need it to fight. You need them to fight, right? So now it's going back to the core where it's mobilizing hydrochloric acid secretions, enzyme secretions, and motility so you can start moving things through your digestive tract. That's why if a really stressful event happens, I mean, you can even wet yourself or, release your bowels if it's an incredibly stressful event. Someone puts a gun to your head, boom, you may wet your pants right there on the spot. That's because the sympathetic nervous system was turned on so fast. Now, a lot of people aren't going to have that level of stress with a gun to your head, but you're in traffic, you didn't get good night's sleep, you're eating gluten, your blood sugar's all over the place. You may be favoring that sympathetic side of the seesaw. So the first thing you can do is just get a bite or two of food in the morning. Just say, I'm going to get a bite or two, because that can kind of get things moving in the right direction. Even beyond that, if your digestion isn't that good, getting a high-quality protein shake in there is excellent. So if you go to my store, I have a couple that I like and recommend. I think you have some too. justinhealth.com/shop. I have some good quality pea, good clean grass-fed whey protein, as well as a high-quality beef protein. Now, if you're more allergenic, I typically go with the beef or pea if there's more food allergies and such. If you're really autoimmune, I would just go to the more unflavored pea protein because there's nothing in it and we don't typically get exposed to that much pea. So pea and beef can be a really good starting point if you're more allergenic. If you're doing pretty good with food allergies, then you could even add in a good grass-fed whey protein. Mix it maybe with a few berries, a scoop of coconut oil or coconut milk like Evan mentioned, and you get a really good protein, fat, carbohydrate, macronutrient ratio there, concoction, but it's easy to break down, digest, and assimilate.
Yep. You've already talked about the last key here, which is smart supplementation. So protein shakes are definitely a smart choice for people that are in a rush. I'd rather somebody take a protein shake any day than just skipping a meal and just rushing to work and not eating until 10 or 11 because now they're hangry and they feel like killing somebody if they don't get something in.
Yeah, I mean, food's our ideal first choice, but a protein shake, if it's high quality, which you're going to pay a little more for because a lot of the stuff on the market's crap. We try to only provide the super high quality ones. And then even mixing in some good quality collagen with it. And then you could even throw in some greens if you wanted or some low glycemic fruit. Then you got a really good macronutrient compound, but you're also giving your tummy a rest in the morning because if you're waking up in the sympathetic state and you're not in that state of being able to digest, it puts food in your tummy that's easy for your body to handle.
That's true. Yeah, I think that's another piece of the puzzle too, where people just don't want to eat because they feel better if they skip a meal because they are so fight or flight mode.
Yeah. I'd say the next thing after that would be if you've made a lot of these changes, great. You're on the right track. I would say the next thing is if you're still dealing with fatigue, energy, brain fog, cold hands, cold feet, digestive issues, joint pain, we may have to dig in a little bit deeper. We may have to talk about cutting out FODMAPs. We may have to talk about an autoimmune diet. We may have to talk about getting your adrenals, thyroid, or your digestive system and looking for infections tested. That's where functional medicine comes in. So the first 5 steps we talked about are a great transition point, and the next would be the functional medicine, and that's where seeking out a practitioner like yourself, Evan, or a doctor like myself here to help figure out what those next steps are. But these are the foundational things that we work with, you work with, I work with, and I see with a lot of patients that have come to me from other practitioners, even well-known ones that people would know on TV, and they miss these simple foundational things. And again, these things are virtually free. So we're putting it out there so everyone has access to the foundation because the higher you're building your health hotel, if you will, right, the deeper that foundation has to be. And these things we're talking about are key foundational things that you can never ignore.
Yeah, and I was just actually watching a presentation by Kalish last night, and he was talking about how even some of these big-name doctors out there, they're so good at getting people in the door, and they sell them, these thousands of dollars worth of supplements and products and things like that, but they have absolutely no follow-up and no system in place that helps people get better. So they basically put them up to the chopping block and then send them on their way. And you and I are about creating a sustainable future for somebody, because you're not just going to instantly snap everything into place and we're going to wave our magic wands and you get better. It's going to take time to pull yourself in the right direction from several different categories. So the nutrition side of things, getting minerals back in, optimizing hydrochloric acid production, getting rid of infections, supporting the adrenals, balancing the hormones. There's so many other things that take time that if you've dealt with a practitioner or someone's telling you, look, this is it, you buy all this crap and you're good, then I would be a little bit wary, because, I tell people, look, I'm not ever going to sign in blood. We're going to fix you overnight. So you have to have patience. It may have taken you 40 years to get that sick or to finally reach out, but now it's going to take at least some time to get better. You can't reverse all of that overnight. So that's my little rant of the day.
Absolutely. And remember, supplements are called supplements for a reason, right? They're supplementing a good diet, a healthy lifestyle. They aren't called replacements, right? All right. They're not called replacements because we're not replacing the food. So foundation is the diet, also the timing of our food, and then also things like water, hydration in between meals, drinking half your body weight in ounces, getting to bed on time before 11 o'clock. All these things are super helpful to getting us dialed in. And if we're still having issues, you're eating meat, you're feeling bloated, you're feeling burpy, you're still tired, it's not the diet, okay? It's not. There may be some fine tuning we have to do with FODMAPs or maybe nuts or seeds or eggs. That may be a key component, but there's probably something deeper. And if there is, you want to reach out to get those other pieces fine-tuned. It's like a puzzle. And if we can put everything together, that's going to help us get your health to the next level.
Yep.
Any last closing comments here, Evan?
I think that's it. That was a great, concise episode.
So just to kind of reiterate, because we talk fast, or I definitely talk fast, and it can be overwhelming. So I always like to say things at least 3 times. So first step is grains to greens. Second step, cook your vegetables to improve bioavailability. Okay. Soda to water or high sugar drinks to water is a big improvement. Or it could even be the Pellegrino or LaCroix or even carbonated things that are naturally carbonated that don't have extra sugar in it, right? That's great. Meat quality. Go up one ladder where your meat quality is, right? If you're at conventional, go to pasture-fed or go to free range. If you're at free range, go to organic. If you're at organic, go to pasture-fed. And then, like you said, you can even go to wild. And then last but not least is skipping the meals. Don't skip the meals. If you're give me the excuse, which I get 1,000 times, I'm not hungry in the morning, I can hear it now, get a good shake, get that dialed in. And then if we're still having issues, again, reach out to Evan's site or to me, and we can help you get that dialed in.
Yep.
Evan, great show today, man.
Good stuff. Likewise.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com.